I'm Andy.
Yeah, and I'm Mark. Early morning.
And we're back. And we're actually back a lot quicker than people were expecting because I think I'm going to put both of these episodes out on Sunday.
Really?
Yeah, a little treat for everybody.
Well, do you know what well, obviously, I assume people are going to listen to the first part first, so they know we're talking about Davos. I actually Googled how many times did Epstein appear in Davos. Didn't register. He must have been there.
I told you there's no records. It's like very, very secret.
Oh. But you never know. I'll tell you what, working for Trump must be almost impossible. I mean, everybody who has connections with Trump ends up getting shafted.
Either sued.
No, but well, I don't know if you heard the latest. He's saying release the I want the documents released. Have you heard this?
Yeah, but what he says and what he actually says are two different things.
No, but the thing is, he's got Pam Bondi and that other idiot Patel saying there are no documents, there's nothing to look at, and now he's done a complete 180-degree U-turn and saying, yeah, release the documents. I mean, the thing is, it's been going on, I don't know how many months. Well, it's been going on for bloody years, not months.
Yes. Yeah.
You can only imagine they've had 100 or maybe 1,000 interns
poring over
every single document that they have in their possession to redact Trump's name or any of his friends, and anybody that's called Clinton is in bold type. But the funniest thing I heard the other day, one of the emails that was released the other day, they were talking about Donald Trump giving Bill Clinton a blowjob. Have you heard this one?
He's probably Bill was probably trying to explain exactly what happened with Monica.
Exactly. Here, Don, let me show you. You get down. But they used to be best buddies, of course. When Trump was a Democrat, they were mates. Bill and his wife, Hillary.
His husband, wife.
What? Oh, is that another? I tell you what, we haven't heard anything about. How's it going on with what's her name, Mrs. Macron?
Monsieur Macron.
Haven't heard anything about that recently.
They're probably still sitting there in stunned silence, going, "If that's a dick, it's not that big, but it's definitely too big to be a clitoris."
Oh dear, the crazy world we live in. Anyway, so that's obviously because we should tell listeners what day is it? Today is Monday, isn't it? Monday morning.
Yep.
Monday morning. Yes, Truth Social operating on a Sunday evening. Release the documents.
Oh, do you follow that? Do you?
No, of course not. No, but it was widely reported on other media, BBC and such like, which I wholly rely on, of course. Yes. For my source of real news.
Very reliable BBC. They're always honest, always trustworthy BBC. You know what? It's really funny that he's up the ante now from between 1 and 5 billion in damages.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's obviously, as far as English law is concerned, he's not going anywhere because damages are related to the actual damage that you incurred.
Yeah, but
he was voted back in as president, so it couldn't have incurred any damage.
But you're assuming that any hearing would take place in the UK.
No, he's filed in Florida.
Exactly, where there is no limit
to what can go wrong.
To the amount of damages that can be awarded. Punitive damages. I mean, it can be as much as they can imagine.
Yeah,
it could be $1 trillion.
Yes, but is it enforceable? Can a court in Florida force an institution in the UK to pay damages?
Probably they would have issues with that, but as the BBC are funded by the taxpayer, what do they care?
What do you mean?
They
It's
just pay it.
the taxpayers are going to be bothered. I'm a taxpayer.
But the thing is, the taxpayers have never been taken into account when billions have been paid out. Look at the financial crises when bankers were bailed. Look at the Lloyd's insurance scam when all the fucking angels were bailed out when fucking Lloyd's went almost bankrupt and all the investors got their money back.
I don't remember that. When was the Lloyd's crisis?
That was back in the 90s.
Was it? Oh, I can't remember. My memory is so bad these days. But no, but what they could do, of course, is they could seize BBC assets in America. I'm sure the New York office for the BBC is quite substantial.
They've probably got a Hewlett Packard computer or two sitting around the place.
Yeah, that they could reclaim
What
towards.
would be great would be if Trump actually took possession of the BBC and it became Trump TV. That would be fucking superb. Can you imagine? It would be Fox News, followed by Trump Live, followed by Fox News Update on Trump Live.
That's right. That would be his legacy. I wonder how many years he can live. He's 80, isn't he now, Trump?
Yeah, but don't forget he's investing a lot of American taxpayers' money into snake oil medicines to try and live longer.
Yeah, but that doesn't translate into living longer. It's just throwing money down the toilet.
Is it though?
Yeah.
I mean, if you think
what, you started taking snake oil now, have you, in the hope of prolonging your life?
All the people over the years who've died mysteriously, but there's always been like rumors about whether or not they actually died, like Hitler, like Osama bin Laden. Maybe they haven't. Maybe they've been fed this elixir of youth because they had the cash for it.
Osama bin Laden was caught in a hole.
What?
Oh no, that was
Osama bin Laden was allegedly shot in some place, and they disposed of his body really, really quickly because that's what's necessary under Islamic law of religion. And there were no pictures, no fucking footage, and I do not believe for 1 second that the Americans would have passed up a propaganda fucking coup like that.
So what you're saying is that Osama bin Laden went from the most hunted and wanted man in the world to being one of the few people on earth given this elixir of life.
Do you know how rich he was? Do you know how rich his family are?
Well, I know how rich his family are, but they're not that rich.
They're rich enough.
They're not Elon Musk rich.
They're sitting in. He's on an island somewhere with Epstein, Elvis, and Adolf. Idi Amin, they're all chewing.
What do you mean?
Idi Amin, he's chewing a leg bone of some poor sucker.
Well, I'll tell you what, it definitely works. If Hitler's still knocking around on the island, that elixir of life, I want some as well, please.
Trump's. That's why Trump's bleeding the American economy. He's getting all those billions in the bank so he can buy his glass of the elixir.
Have you worked out how many billions the family have amassed? I gave that as a bit of homework for you.
No, I haven't got time for homework.
No, so that's it. So that's in the news at the moment, all of that sort of stuff. Finally, it's cold here, by the way. It's -8 this morning.
Oh, I haven't even checked here. Alexa, what's the temperature?
Right now, it's -10 degrees Celsius.
Beat you.
Today, expect a high of -4 degrees.
-10 with a high of -4.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Well, that's not too bad, is it? That's what we want. Bit of winter weather.
Yeah, except I've got to go shopping after this.
Oh, do you? Well, I did all of, I say all of the vehicles. You know, when you've got trailers and things, you've got to swap bloody tyres on trailers. And of course, because I've got this ridiculous lift in the garage, everybody comes over to have their bloody tyres changed.
You should charge.
Yeah. Well, they do. I think the going rate is 400 kroner.
Don't you get gangs of kids going around mobile doing it for like 300?
You might do, but they're not mobile. They do it in the car parks. The school, school kids doing it for, yeah, you're probably right, 300 kroner a pop.
But I mean, you can't really do it as a school project because there's insurance issues there.
Ooh, yeah, but well, yeah, maybe. Yeah. No, but there's loads of them. Loads of them. And it is, it's crazy time in Stockholm because everybody's doing it in Stockholm. But the problem I have is where to put all these bloody tyres over the winter or over the summer.
Well, a lot of people in Stockholm, though, have year-round tyres, don't they? Because you're not allowed to use studs.
Studs. No, in fact, the old town, Gamla, you can't have studded tyres anywhere. Which is, I can imagine, a pain in the arse for people going to the southern part of Stockholm who have to drive through Gamla. I don't think they're allowed to do that.
For deliveries from other parts of the country.
Yeah, but I don't think the lorries don't have studded tyres. Even the vans don't have studded tyres. Anyway, so yeah, that was a busy weekend. When did we speak? Was it Thursday of last week?
Do you know what? We thought it was Thursday, but it wasn't. It was Wednesday because we changed it to Wednesday.
That's right. That's right. I did.
When we spoke the next day, it was Thursday, but I already thought it was Friday because we spoke yesterday, and we both lost complete track of what day.
The plot. God, it's worrying, isn't it?
Yeah.
But
so
anyway.
Part one.
Yeah. And now it's Monday.
Now it's Monday, for sure.
Yeah. No, but yeah, other than that, I don't think there's too much craziness going on in the world. Not too much strange stuff going on in the world. I'll probably miss something.
No, I saw in the paper this morning that they're still harassing the number one prime suspect in the Madeleine McCann case.
Sorry, what are they doing to him?
Well, he's living in a tent in the woods, and they're just camped next to him, taking his picture all day, the sun.
But hang on a second, he has actually. Has that been in the news? He's actually been released.
Yeah, he's out.
What?
They've got nothing on him.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about he's actually out. He's been released from prison. No, that would have been big news.
Why?
Well, because he's the main suspect in the Madeleine McCann case.
I think it's only according to the Sun. They've got a hard-on for him for some reason.
Well, and the German police authorities, but apart from that.
If they wanted him that badly, he'd still be locked up. They've got nothing. We've been through this. They've got nothing on him. They can't fucking prove shit.
No, I realise that. I'm not disputing that. We're not going through that argument. All I'm saying is I'm surprised. I know you think but he is the prime suspect or the most suspected person. So I'm just surprised it's not big news.
Yeah, but it's the reasoning behind why he's the prime suspect that doesn't fucking wash with me. Because they claim to basically know it was him what done it. But that's just like me saying, I know the first name of the guys who did the Louvre. Francois.
They've been caught. They've been caught.
Have they?
I think so. I think there were two guys that
didn't thought anything about that.
What do you mean you never thought anything about it?
I never saw anything about that.
Yeah, I read that the first two guys have been caught. I think they have I'll do it while you're have the Louvre. What would you call them? Cat burglars.
Well, burglars. Oh no.
What?
We have a visitor.
What do you mean you got a visitor?
Someone just jumped on my mixing board.
Louvre robbers caught. Yeah, 2 more charged over the Louvre. So, yeah. Yeah.
Are they going to make them pay for the repairs to the broken crown of Marie Antoinette?
Oh, the crown got broken, did it?
Yeah.
Well, that's not good. Marie Antoinette, the most hated queen. Was she a queen?
Oh, was it Marie Antoinette? Or it was Napoleon's wife, Josephine.
Oh, I see. No, it wasn't. They weren't one of the robbers. It was a 38-year-old woman who's been charged with complicity in organised theft.
There.
So she was the fence.
Yeah, all right.
Or maybe she was wearing the crown at her fancy dress party.
Well, and it was slipping down because it wasn't joined properly at the back.
Well, it was not her head shape.
I wonder what size that crown is because, there's always this thing about Napoleon being a short ass.
He wasn't. He was 5'7".
He was 5'7", and then the average height in those days was
5'6". Yeah. What, did you see the same thing as me? Did you see that the last couple of days, Napoleon's height? I don't know why, what the hell I was watching, but someone said Napoleon wasn't a shorty. He was actually an inch taller than the average height.
He was taller than Napoleon, in fact.
Napoleon was British. No, yes. What?
Yes.
No, Napoleon was French. Nelson was British.
Sorry, Nelson. He was taller than Nelson.
Yeah. In spite of Nelson's column. Now what's going on?
He's messing around behind my monitor. He's being really naughty.
He probably needs a walk. Why don't you take the cats out for a walk?
You know why?
No, I mean on a lead.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly that.
Oh.
Because one, I'm not gay.
What's that got to do with?
No one takes their cat out for a walk on a lead.
They sell cat leads in the pet shop.
They're usually pink, aren't they?
God dear.
Anyway, it's snowing winter now. It's a good idea, maybe in the spring.
I think quite a few people. Yeah.
No one does. You've never met anyone who does that.
I know Eva bought a lead for the cat. I don't think she's ever taken. She has actually. Yeah, when the little one was young. Frasser, the murder machine, when he was young, she used to take him out on a lead. That cat kills probably on average 2 animals a day.
Oh my God. Stop it. Everything that's not nailed down, he's dragging towards the back of the table.
Can't you lock them somewhere? Why don't you lock them in that toilet?
If it goes under, I'm going to kill you. If it goes under the curtain and down behind the desk, it will land on the windowsill and I'll never see it again. Because it's impossible for me to access.
How did it go with Robin and the blackout sound thing, panels?
Well, it sounds fine, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does actually, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't actually... You're supposed to glue and screw them on the wall, but I just stood them up on the desk. I'll show you.
Oh my God, they're proper stuff.
Yeah. Because I didn't want to put any more holes in the wall, and I certainly didn't want to glue it to the wallpaper after my last experience when I got that bill from Maura Strand.
Did you?
22,000.
No.
Yeah.
Did you tell me that?
Probably.
Which house was that? The little place in Vormers?
Yeah.
22,000? What the hell did you leave? I don't remember you putting anything up on the walls other than a few pictures.
No, but one of the cats, and it was probably Reggie, the retard, Reg the Veg. He's got a habit of picking at wallpaper. And because in this country they wallpaper over wallpaper over wallpaper, he actually picked through every layer in one corner So the whole room would have to be redone. But also, it was a bit cheeky because they wanted to redecorate before I moved in. But that would have meant they didn't have time. So it would have meant them decorating while I was there and while the cats were in. And I didn't want that. So I told them not to. So they were going to decorate anyway, but now they got me to pay for it.
Yeah, that is a bit cheeky.
Yeah.
Oh.
Wankers.
Oh. All right. It's quite a lot of money, though.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like 5 months' rent or something, or 4 months' rent.
It was a lot of money.
You couldn't even blame Phil.
No. Anyway, it is what it is.
It is what it is.
I'm not getting caught in that trap again. So
No.
I'll just keep standing on the table, leaning against the wall. It works.
Oh, I know what I haven't asked you. Are you buying anything on Black, whatever this Madness Friday is?
No.
No. Well, you might want a new cat toilet. You might find a new cat toilet an absolute bargain.
Need a new cat toilet.
Well, there you go. Black Friday for a cat poo.
Yeah, but I mean, the sort of stuff I buy is never on sale. It's always old stock, isn't it?
I don't know. Maybe they've
stuff.
Maybe
you can
they
get like cheap TVs and stuff because they're old-fashioned and newer models have come out. But you'll never get a new model of anything.
No, I know, but I don't think the cats are too bothered whether they got the latest colour scheme on their toilet or not.
I am. I will not have my cats having anything less than first class.
How much is one of those?
I think that one costs me about 7,000.
And how much is that in real money now?
I don't know, just call it 700 quid.
For a cat toilet?
I've had it how long?
You have had it a few years, yeah.
So maybe it's £100 a year.
And how often, I don't want all the details, but how often do you actually have to shovel all that stuff out?
I don't shovel anything. It lands in a plastic bag in the tray at the bottom. So I just tie up the bag and carry it out.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that actually is quite sophisticated. So literally you just put like a nappy sack liner in there.
It's actually a proper full-size bin bag.
No, it's not full.
No, it is. And I stick it in the drawer and then I fold it underneath the drawer as well.
Yeah.
And I push it back in. And when it's time to fill it up, I just pull it out from underneath the drawer, pick it up, tie it in a big knot, and it holds a lot. I mean, it's more than the body weight of all the cats.
So how often do you have to do that? Once a month?
No, once every 7-10 days.
Shit, they dump that much, do they?
You heard them last time. It was going non-stop while we were recording. They were having a proper poo party.
Do they ever do that?
It's already gone twice while we've been doing this now.
No.
Yeah.
God, dear. Every 10 days.
Oh, no. Cleaning out that toilet. It takes like a minute.
Oh.
But it is a bit... I have to be a bit sneaky when I'm going towards the bins in case my neighbours see me with a big bag of shit heading towards them.
Why? Is that not allowed?
No, it is allowed, but, you don't want the gossip, do you? They don't know it's cat shit.
Well, I should hope not. Maybe they go through your bins to determine what you get up to, Andy.
It has to be a see-through bag as well. That's the thing.
Why?
Because if it's not see-through, then the sensor thinks the bag is full.
All right, yeah.
Because it sees black.
Yeah.
It has to see light.
So do you have to buy, God knows why the listeners will be interested in this, but do you have to buy special bags that are designed for that machine?
You can, but they're really expensive.
That's what I was thinking.
I just buy the see-through garbage bags,
All
which
right.
are the same as the black bags, but just
See-through. Oh, all right. All right. Well, enough about cat poo machines.
Enough about all of it. I think we should get on with this story.
Well, we covered the basics. Not that we got actually too much. But, there's a load of nonsense. People, I said, in looking whether Epstein went a few times, why do people like Elton John go to Davos?
Why wouldn't he?
Well, because what's he got to do with economic anything? He's a singer.
Yeah, but they like a bit of entertainment as well.
What, you think he got up on stage and played a few numbers?
Probably.
Well, why was Kate Blanchett there?
They like a bit of entertainment. He probably did a few routines on the pole.
I mean, it's just, oh my God. Yeah. Anyway, carry on.
It's just a party, isn't it?
No, exactly. It's just a party.
And as I said, it's usually in the back rooms and the restaurants where all the dodgy dealing gets done.
Yeah.
Anyway, we left it last week where basically we said we're going to move from the snow-covered slopes of Switzerland
to the conspiracy theories. Oh, no. Oh, no.
What has he done? There we go. He muted my bloody yodel. Let's see if we
No, it's not working, Andy. Yeah. Continuity needs a bit of practice. But anyway, not bad.
Yeah, so we're moving on to the internet, where, as I said, Davos became the shorthand for everything that was wrong with the world.
Did it?
Yeah, because it was
hashtag Davos
and other things. And it was the year 2020, and it began with an eerie quiet before the storm. A virus had begun to spread across continents, and within weeks, the entire planet shut down. Streets emptied, markets crashed, people stayed home, anxious and uncertain, except me, who was mocking the whole fucking thing. And somewhere in that silence, the world's balance of trust collapsed. Governments scrambled, scientists argued, experts. Social media filled with fear, and in the background, one man, Klaus Schwab, was already thinking ahead. As early as May 2020, the World Economic Forum launched a new initiative, and it had a bold name, the Great Reset. The slogan was meant to be hopeful, even visionary. Schwab and WEF argued that since the pandemic had already disrupted the global economy, the world shouldn't just rebuild what was broken. It should reset, reimagine capitalism itself to make it more sustainable and more equitable. Schwab wrote a book about it. Politicians, economists, and activists joined the discussion. Prince Charles, that well-known philosopher, even lent his voice to the cause. I was talking to the trees, and they think it's a great idea. Oh, yeah. But to millions of people online, frightened, isolated, and angry, the phrase, the Great Reset, didn't sound very hopeful. It sounded more like a threat. And in hindsight, it's easy to see why. By mid-2020, the world was primed for conspiracy. Millions were glued to their screens. Misinformation spread faster than the alleged virus. People were losing jobs, losing trust, and losing all sense of control. So when a group of elites, the same faces that appeared at Davos every year, start talking about a reset, it triggered every suspicion imaginable. A reset of what exactly? To those who already distrusted globalization, it sounded like a plan to wipe the slate clean, to rebuild the world in someone else's image. And because the WEF wasn't a government, Because it operates in the shadows of influence, the phrase could mean anything. So soon, a wildfire of YouTube videos, blogs, and Facebook posts began interpreting the Great Reset as evidence of a globalist coup. In these online narratives, Schwab wasn't a professor or economist anymore. He became a kind of modern Bond villain. The WEF wasn't a non-profit, it was a secret government. Conspiracy channels claimed the pandemic itself had been engineered as a pretext for total control. And I'm not unconvinced by that. That the elites at Davos were plotting to abolish private property, again, agree. Replace money with digital currency, agree.
Sorry, what was that? Whoa. Cancel private property?
Yeah.
So what are you talking about? They're communists.
Look, they're basically, you can see it happening. They're making it impossible for the middle class or the working class to actually own property anymore. There's many ways of cancelling private property. And if they're going to do it the gentle way, they'll do it over 2 generations.
So you mean the idea is just to make it unaffordable?
Yes. And to make sure that you can't get that money one way or the other, do away with hard currency, make everything digital. Then they can say, oh, you can't afford that. We know that because that's exactly what you're worth. So if you've got any more than that, where the fuck did it come from? On your way to prison. Do not pass go.
Mm-hmm.
So, replace money with digital currency and track citizens through microchips and vaccine passports, which they did attempt, which people said no to. It didn't matter that none of this was in the WEF's plans. Once a phrase like the Great Reset enters the bloodstream of the internet, it mutates. The WEF's promotional videos, which were full of corporate platitudes about sustainability and cooperation, were suddenly being cut into montages next to footage of empty streets, masked children, and military checkpoints. One particular line from a 2016 WEF article became the conspiracy theorists' holy grail. You'll own nothing and be happy. It wasn't even part of the Great Reset. It was from a speculative essay imagining what life might look like in 2030, written by a Danish MP as a thought experiment and not a policy, so he says. But online, context doesn't matter. A catchy line, stripped of nuance, becomes a weapon. And it's a fucking dangerous line to come out with in the first place. I can't think of anything more inflammatory for an MP to say to the general public.
Yeah, but I still don't. Yeah, I mean, people say all sorts of crazy things all the time.
Yeah, but this is particularly inflammatory because it's basically saying, we're bringing you to heel. You're getting above yourselves and we're not going to put up with it anymore. We don't like being... we know we're downtrodden, but we don't like our masters letting us know that they're our masters.
Do you feel that do you feel in your situation that you are under the control of other people?
We all are. We're all slaves to currency.
Yeah, but it's a lot of that is just, your perception, your frame. I don't think I'm a slave to anything.
But because you're in a slightly more comfortable position than most people. Most people who are living from day to day are living more to hour.
Oh, no. I completely accept that.
Every safety net is being removed from the general population.
Yeah, but as long as you live in a free democracy...
There's no such thing as a free democracy.
Well, they're pretty few and far between, but Sweden...
There's far from a democracy. This is more of a socialist country than any other place that I've.
Well, what's that got to do with it not being a democracy?
Well, we are not in a democracy.
In Sweden?
Yeah.
What, with 7 political parties to choose from, ranging from communists
How many
to...
of them have held power in the last fucking 50 years?
What are you talking about? They're in power now. It's not a consortium, a coalition government.
Nothing changes, Mark. The idea of democracy is great on paper, but no matter who comes to power, nothing ever changes.
Yeah, but hang on a second. I thought you were alarmed by what was going on at the World Economic Forum and what this Danish fellow said. And what you're actually saying is, well, don't worry about democracy because it doesn't mean anything.
No, but democracy is not the answer. You're promoting a failed experiment.
No, but I'm not saying it's perfect, but I'm saying a democracy of some description is better than what you're promoting, which seems to be in line with the World Economic Forum.
No, what I'm promoting is absolute
elites,
revolution and anarchy.
Oh, I see.
No more Mr. Nice Guy.
All right. When were you ever considered a nice guy?
I mean, just in case anyone was wondering.
All right. So who gets to choose who's in power then?
Well, the WEF became the perfect villain. The idea that elites wanted to make you own nothing, to take away your property, your privacy, and your freedom spread like wildfire. And by late 2020, right-wing pundits, now, see, this annoys me as well, because basically today, to be right-wing, all you have to do is disagree with anything that doesn't suit the left-wing agenda. You don't even have to be extreme, but if you disagree with any of their ideas or opinions, you're obviously a right-wing fascist.
Well, no, but that's just the division of the political spectrum. Of course, if you disagree with everything or anything that happens on the left, you're obviously on the right.
The phrase right-wing has been weaponized, hasn't it? Because now, if you're referred to as right-wing, it means you're a thug, a hooligan, a fascist, a racist.
Well, in your mind it may do, but it's been no more weaponized than, for instance, the term socialist in America. What's the difference? There's no weaponizing. If it is, it's equal on both sides. It's completely, nonsensical.
Well, it's true that if you do have to call someone left-wing, you are pretty insulting. Because who the hell would want to be a left-wing softy like that?
What do you mean? I class myself as left-leaning.
I know you do. You're left-wing.
But this is what I don't understand. It's like, are you left-leaning?
No.
You see, you're not. But on the other side, you're supporting the work. You're saying you're supporting the working man, but you're creating a system that basically supports the oppression of the working man.
I'm not creating anything.
Yes, you are. Anarchy.
No. Look.
Who comes out on top?
Labels. Let's not get locked up with labels.
Or whatever.
What I want to do is to say, as the French and the Russians did, and just top the elites. Just be done with them. Off with their heads.
Oh, I see. Oh.
So, revolution. Trump's revolution.
You've never mentioned this beforehand. Yeah, I'm getting a bit nervous to be associated with you. I'm going to be number 2 on the list.
So, by late 2020, right-wing pundits and politicians were using the Great Reset as shorthand for tyranny. It was invoked by conspiracy influencers, libertarians, anti-vaccine activists, and even some mainstream commentators. And the phrase crossed borders, languages, and ideologies. In Canada, it fueled protests against lockdowns, which should have happened in every country. In the US, It merged with QAnon narratives about global elites and deep state control. And in Europe, it blended with long-standing suspicions about the EU and international finance. What had started as an obscure policy framework had become a global myth. A myth with an incredible emotional power because it told a story that made sense of people's pain. If your business had failed during lockdown, maybe it wasn't just bad luck. Maybe it was part of the plan. If your privacy was being eroded by digital surveillance, maybe that wasn't just coincidence. Maybe someone wanted it that way. If billionaires were getting richer while everyone else suffered, maybe that was the whole point. The Great Reset narrative turned random suffering into an international plot. And once you believe that, everything fits. Masks became symbols of submission. Vaccines became tools of control. Technology becomes surveillance. And the entire modern world becomes a cage designed by Davos.
Yeah, but how did these people... if all right, so let's go along with your line of thinking that the whole thing was planned.
I'm saying this is how the conspiracy theories played out.
But who benefits by creating a global pandemic?
Who gets poorer? Who gets richer? They destroyed a whole heap of middle-class businessmen. They literally put people back into the Middle Ages in some cases.
But as we've discussed so many times before, if you kill the very market that you're trying to target to sell your product to, how does that benefit them?
No, what you're doing is
how did Elon Musk benefit?
You're not making them so poor they can't afford your stuff. You're making them poor enough that they have to buy your stuff because it's cheap tat.
So how did Elon Musk benefit from the pandemic, having killed the car market?
He doesn't give a toss about the car market.
That's where he makes his money.
No, his money comes from fucking Starlink. He makes nothing on Tesla. Tesla doesn't make a profit.
No, I mean,
a car company that cost 50 fucking billion in research and development, and they've sold maybe 500,000 cars. How can they make a profit?
I mean, I could see some logic that you could argue Jeff Bezos would have benefited from a global pandemic because people weren't allowed to leave their houses, so they had to buy shit online.
Jeff Bezos makes nothing from his Amazon delivery service.
Of course he does.
Amazon money comes from server farms, basically. Data storage. That's where Amazon big money comes from.
No.
Yes, you can Google that right now.
So the main source of income from Jeff Bezos's empire is not retail sales through Amazon. It's through data servicing.
Yep.
Servers.
Yep, information. All your little dirty secrets.
Yeah, but that is farmed from all of the business he does on his Amazon website.
It's contributed to, probably, but it's not just his own data storage. He stores data for other companies, banks. He provides servers for all sorts of stuff, gaming industry, everything.
So do we have a list of who orchestrated the global pandemic?
Like Epstein's list, I'm hanging on to it. It's my insurance policy. So the reality is a bit less cinematic. The WEF doesn't have an army, of course. It doesn't pass laws, and it doesn't own the world's infrastructure. But what it does have is access to the world's most powerful people and the ability to shape the conversations that they have. And that's both its strength and its vulnerability. Because when you gather the world's elite in one place and you surround them with cameras, slogans, and polished language, you don't need to hide anything to look suspicious. The optics alone tell a story, and it's a story that people already want to believe. And that's the uncomfortable part, that the Davos conspiracy isn't entirely baseless fantasy. It's a distorted reflection of something real, a deep, systematic imbalance of power. In that sense, conspiracy theories about the WEF act like mirrors. They exaggerate the features of our world that we don't want to look at directly: inequality, unaccountable influence, and the sense that democracy is becoming performative while real decisions are made elsewhere. When people say Davos controls the world, what they often mean is, I feel like I've lost control of my world. And that feeling isn't imaginary. Meanwhile, the WEF kept doing what it always does, holding conferences, publishing white papers, talking about building back better. But now it was being treated as the epicenter of a global plot. For Klaus Schwab, this was a nightmare scenario. He had wanted to inspire optimism about rebuilding society and instead had become the villain of 1,000 YouTube documentaries. Yet in a strange way, this moment also revealed the power of narrative itself, because if you strip away the conspiratorial noise, what the Great Reset really represented was an attempt to tell a story about global transformation after crisis. But in the information age, every story is up for grabs. The meaning of words, the intent behind slogans, they don't belong to the speakers anymore, they belong to the audience. And by 2020, the audience was fucking angry. The gap between elite optimism and public despair had grown far too wide. And when Schwab said we must reset capitalism, people heard we must replace democracy. When he said we must build trust in our institutions, people heard we must obey authority. The WEF tried to talk about reform, but the world heard revolution. And that's the paradox at the heart of Davos. Even when it talks about change, it does so from a position of extreme stability and privilege. The people who attend are the least affected by any crisis, yet they're the ones claiming to lead us through it. The contradiction in that is the fuel that keeps the conspiracy alive. So by the end of 2020, the Great Reset had become a meme, a slogan, a scapegoat, and a warning, depending on who you asked. It was no longer just about Klaus Schwab or the WEF. It was about every frustration people had with globalization, capitalism, and elite hypocrisy. Davos, once a symbol of technocratic optimism, had become the shorthand for global distrust. And that distrust wasn't going away. In fact, it was spreading, evolving, becoming part of a broader narrative about how power works in the 21st century.
And now, a word from our sponsors.
This January, come to Austria or Switzerland for Davos.
I still don't understand. I still don't understand your position in terms of the failings of democracy leads you to conclude, let's give up with democracy. Why do you imagine? I mean, I can imagine why the French Revolution worked, because that literally was a call to arms. And the Russian Revolution was the same. But how do you think your situation is going to... What change in the situation that you're promoting gives you more power as an individual? Why would you feel more empowered without a democracy?
We don't really have a democracy.
You've got you do. You have a sort of democracy. You're just saying it's so completely failed that it's not even worth having. I obviously disagree with that. I mean, evidenced by the fact that Sweden has however many political parties. You can vote from complete far right to complete far left, and they actually have influence. Even Sverigedemokraterna, who are the sort of the more right-leaning, they have influence in government, as do the communists. So there's a whole spectrum of influence that's going on, and these people are. They don't resort to money because financing political parties is a completely different kettle of fish compared to America. So in Sweden, I think we have some form of democracy. And I'm just interested to think, why do you think your position is going to be strengthened without even the failed democracy as you see it?
It's not it's not the failed democracy that's my biggest bugbear. It's the inequality over the distribution of wealth and power.
No, but I'm completely in agreement. That is the biggest single problem that faces the world today, inequality of wealth distribution. But but that is why I do not understand why people who think that getting rid of democracy is going to improve that situation. I just don't see the logic.
That's a subject for a different podcast.
Well, yeah, but I mean, we're sort of touching on it because you're talking about the Davos elite. I know there's a lot of conspiracy that you're talking about, but the root of the problem is we're completely in alignment, inequality of wealth distribution. And what we seem to be talking about is what is the path to a more equal. I mean, that's why I'm always going on about Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos, I agree with you. He wouldn't be as successful as he is if it wasn't for the fact that he has so much power and influence over politicians that he's able to negotiate these ridiculously sweet tax deals.
Yeah.
It's not a level playing field. But I don't think demolishing the democratic process is the way forward, because I think that would give them more power, not less power.
Well, no, but they would be removed.
They wouldn't be.
They wouldn't have any power.
No, but they wouldn't be. That's the problem. And the simple fact is, as I've said so many times before, you as a consumer don't appreciate how much power you have. You could literally close Shell Oil, as the example I used in last episode. You could close that company down in a matter of weeks if we wanted to.
How are they so close to the line between bankruptcy and profit?
It's not that you don't have to put them into bankruptcy. All you need to do is show the shareholders of Shell or any company that if you step out of line to such an extent that consumers stop buying your product, just think of the overheads that Shell Oil run. Just think of the stockpiles of fuel that they have. And suddenly, from one day to the next, they're not actually selling any oil. How long would it take, not for them to go bankrupt, but from the shareholders to say, hang on a second, start knocking on the chairman's door, saying you've got to do something. You've got to take these environmental activists seriously. Otherwise, we're going to crash and burn. You don't actually have to put them into liquidation. Is exactly what happened in the financial crisis. It's the threat. It's the prospect of what's going to happen.
The prospect of all those fat asses losing their little comfort zone.
No, you're right, absolutely. But we could literally do that tomorrow. You could go out and if you had sufficient numbers of followers and say, stop using Amazon today, cancel your Prime channels, the empire would collapse within a month.
I've already stopped purchasing my petrol from Shell.
Yes, I know you do, but that's got nothing to do with... So all I'm saying is, rather than demolishing democracy or the democratic system that we have at the moment, you don't need to. All you need to do is have a consumer boycott.
The democratic system as we know it is owned by corporations anyway.
Not in Sweden. In America, absolutely. I completely agree with you, 100%. You can buy your way, as is evidenced by all the numbskulls that are there. And to an extent in the UK. Nigel Farage, as a perfect example, as a complete wankhead. He's got nothing to do with the interests of the UK. He was actually talking, he's been talking down Liz Truss. So the ex-Prime Minister of the UK was talking...
Pretty ineffectual.
40 days she was in power,
Yeah, and
talking down the UK.
wasn't it her who put the economy into free fall?
Yes, because the markets suddenly decided this woman is an idiot and we've got to get her out. And so that happened there's a perfect example. That happened in 40 days. They took out a prime minister in 40 days.
Yeah, but
so
why
all
can't
I'm
you do it to Keir Starmer?
Because he's not that much of a numbskull.
Oh, please. Coming straight in with his digital ID out of nowhere, out of left field.
No, unfortunately, see, that's a perfect illustration. In the UK as well, it's getting bad, but it's not as bad as in the States. Keir Starmer, what could you do? He is a politician. He's not funded by Big Pharma or big agriculture or anything like that.
He's funded by bloody Tony Blair.
Tony Blair, he's not Tony. What's Tony Blair got to do with anything?
He's Tony Blair's lapdog. Who do you think is behind the digital ID thing? Who do you think would get the contract for producing these digital IDs and running the show?
What's Tony Blair got a digital ID company?
No, but his son.
Really? What?
Yes, his son is in the running to run the whole fucking operation.
Oh, well, that's different.
Multiple millions and billions of pounds.
Oh. But anyway, you know what I'm saying. You can change the world tomorrow. It doesn't need a revolution, doesn't need anarchy, doesn't need a call to arms.
I prefer the revolution.
Yeah, but you're going to be losing out, Andy.
No, I'm going to die soon, so it doesn't really matter to me.
Well, no, but your kids, well, I say your kid, poor old Hannah, she's the one that's going to suffer because she's not an elite. She doesn't have $1 billion safety net. They're the only people that are going to survive.
No, that's the whole point of the revolution, is to get rid of those people.
Yeah, but they're not. You're not going to succeed because they disappear off to their islands. They've got private armies.
We freeze their assets. We confiscate their assets. We make them one of us. We turn off their bank accounts like what they wanted to do to us. See how they like them apples.
So you think you're going to be able to?
Apples.
You think they're going to be able to turn off their apple supply? I just don't see it.
Anyway, let's get back on track.
We are on track. This is what we're talking about.
No, but you interrupted my flow.
That sounds horrible. Well, actually, it's quite accurate. You're having a pee.
So, a narrative that says you don't need secret societies anymore because power is hidden in plain sight, wrapped in buzzwords and broadcast on live streams. The real conspiracy isn't a hidden hand. It's an open circle of people who are too powerful to be challenged and too convinced of their own virtue to see the irony. And that's where we will go next, into the deeper story of how myths like this take hold and how they grow and how they're so hard to kill.
And now, a word from our sponsors.
Who do you think?
That's twice. Did you press the wrong button?
No.
Well, it's obviously not Big Pharma.
So anyway, if you want to understand why the Davos conspiracy theory spread so successfully, you have to understand one simple truth. And that's that people don't believe stories because they're factually correct. They believe them because they feel true. And the story of Davos, of global elites gathering in an exclusive mountain town to discuss the future, feels like the perfect setup for a grand conspiracy. Think about the elements. You've got secrecy, even if it's just the secrecy of private meetings and exclusive lounges. You've got wealth and power, not theoretical power, but literal presidents and billionaires. You have jargon, language that sounds like code to anyone outside the room. You have a leader, Klaus Schwab, an older intellectual with a distant accent and a love for sweeping declarations. And you have timing, a moment when trust in governments institutions, and media is collapsing. Put all of that together, and you have the ingredients of a modern myth. Because conspiracy theories aren't random. They emerge when official explanations fail to provide comfort. People turn to alternative narratives because those narratives offer clarity in a world that feels chaotic. In that sense, conspiracy theories are a kind of emotional coping mechanism. They take a world of complexity and reduce it to a world of intention. Instead of things are falling apart because of structural failures in global systems, a conspiracy theory offers someone planned this. Instead of we're facing a messy mix of inequality, technology, and political dysfunction, a conspiracy theory says there's a villain here somewhere. And since you have a villain, you have a story. You have order, you have purpose. And that's what the WEF provides in conspiracy imagination. Not a literal conspiracy, but narrative coherence. It becomes the symbol that ties together everything that people fear: the loss of privacy, the rise of AI, the intrusion of big tech, the disappearance of job security, the breakdown of community, and the feeling that the world is changing too fast without any of your input. It's no coincidence that many Davos conspiracy believers also distrust vaccines, digital currency, climate policy, immigration, the EU, the UN, and global corporations. To them, these are not separate issues. They're pieces of a puzzle that form a single image: global control. And that image is powerful because it simplifies the world and it turns 1,000 anxieties into one story. And that story feels empowering, even if the truth behind it may be a bit shaky.
But Andy, aren't you a bit of a conspiracy theorist?
In many respects, I am a conspiracy theorist.
But you're just perfectly reasonably explaining why people believe in conspiracy theories. It's got nothing to do with any truth in the conspiracy. It's people who feel they've lost control of their own destiny.
Yes, but I'm explaining the reasoning behind why people are quite happy to believe conspiracy theories.
Yeah, no, I
recognizing
agree.
the truth of something doesn't necessarily mean it's not true. Just recognizing how things come about doesn't necessarily mean that it's not what's actually happening.
I think I follow you.
I understand the ins and outs of conspiracy theory, but I also understand that some conspiracy theories are more true than others.
Have more elements of truth in them to make them more believable.
Some are 100% fact, mate.
Like not landing on the moon.
We know that one. So to critics, sorry, I've gone a bit far. Because Davos sits at the crossroads of symbolism, it's not a government, so it's not accountable. It's not a corporation, so you can't boycott it. It's not a university, but it speaks with academic authority. It's not a religious institution, but it offers a moral vision. It's kind of a secular Vatican of global capitalism, a place where the high priests of finance and politics gather to declare how the world should be run. And to critics, that alone feels conspiratorial. Even if the WEF had no dark agenda, even if it were entirely benign, the optics are damning. A tiny fraction of humanity deciding the fate of the other 7 billion. It doesn't matter if they're just talking. Talking to us feels like deciding. And when those talks generate vague slogans about reshaping society, transforming the global order, and harnessing the fourth industrial revolution, the conspiracy theory practically writes itself. Because when powerful people speak in abstract, sweeping language, people fill the gaps with their own fears. Now imagine that you're someone who feels invisible, someone who feels like the world is moving on without you. Maybe you've lost your work or trust or hope. Maybe your government doesn't seem to care. Maybe the town you grew up in is now full of empty shops and it feels hollowed out. And then, one day, you see a video online, a video with ominous music, a montage of Davos elites talking about global governance and the future of humanity. You see Klaus Schwab saying, the pandemic represents a rare but narrow opportunity to reset our world. I can't remember where it's from, but I'm guessing
he's Austrian.
German. And you'll hear Bill Gates talking about future pandemics. You see charts about carbon footprints and digital IDs and cashless societies, and suddenly things just click. The world isn't chaotic because it's broken. The world is chaotic because someone wants it that way. And that is the psychological hook of the Davos theories. They turn helplessness into a battle. They turn fear into clarity, and they turn confusion into motivation. And social media amplifies that motivation with algorithmic precision. On YouTube, a single click on a Great Reset explained video leads you down a rabbit hole, each video more extreme than the last. On Facebook, posts about Davos spread rapidly because anger spreads rapidly. On Twitter, threads go viral because outrage is the platform's fuel. And on TikTok, creators package complex fears into short, punchy clips that feel true even if they're completely wrong. The platforms don't care about accuracy. They care about likes. They care about engagement. And conspiracy theories engage intensely. The result is a never-ending cycle. Davos holds an event, someone pulls a sentence out of context, a video spins it into a threat, millions share it, politicians repeat it, Davos is forced to respond, and the response becomes proof of guilt. It's a feedback loop so efficient that even the WEF can't escape it. But the conspiracy machine doesn't just distort reality, it also distorts the critiques that are legitimate. Because here's the real twist, the WEF has problems. Serious, structural, legitimate problems. It is elitist. It's undemocratic. It's insulated from public accountability. And it promotes a version of capitalism that has enriched a tiny minority and destabilized the world for the majority. These criticisms are absolutely fair. In fact, they're necessary. But when conspiracy theories flood the zone with claims about mind control, digital enslavement, and depopulation agendas, they drown out the real conversation. It becomes impossible to critique Davos without being lumped in with extremists. Meanwhile, the people who benefit from the system can dismiss all criticism as conspiracy. And that is how misinformation protects power, not by revealing a secret truth, but by muddying the waters so thoroughly that the truth becomes impossible to find. And that is what makes Davos so fascinating and so dangerous. It doesn't expose hidden power, it obscures it. It replaces real critique with fantasy. It lets the genuinely powerful shrug and say, see, our critics are crazy. All while the real structural inequalities continue unchecked.
But you see, this is what I've been arguing to you for forever. And that is the reason why I am so defensive in terms of going down the conspiracy theory rabbit hole is precisely for what you've just been describing, that it distracts people's effort and time and thought processes away from the real structural issues that exist, because it's so easy to go down the conspiracy rabbit hole.
Yes.
So when you talk about not believing in moon landings or whatever, or that COVID was a hoax and all of that sort of thing, there may be, well, not in the moon landing thing, there's an element of truth in everything, but it distracts from the real issues that are going on in the world, and that is what we just talked about, the inequality of wealth distribution. If people put their thinking time into a more real and constructive and structured way, rather than just going down the conspiracy rabbit hole, I think everything would be a lot better in every respect.
Unfortunately, without conspiracy to add a bit of flavour, most people find the rest of
Boring.
it quite boring.
No, you're right. No. I completely agree. But unfortunately, in so many instances, and obviously what we've been talking about the last 2 hours, Davos is one of them. There's no doubting. If you appear at Davos and you are a part of the financial elite, by definition, if you're in Davos, there are only two things that you have as a priority. That is protecting your existing position and improving your personal position. Those are the only two things that people think about who go to Davos.
That is the irony at the heart of the conspiracy machine, that the more outrageous the theories become, the more invisible the real issues also become.
Yeah. Thank you, Andy. Finally, after 4 years of talking, you finally agree with me.
Then one of us has to go, because the whole point of this podcast is to be arguing like cat and dog.
I think we disagree about plenty of other stuff, but we seem to be in agreement on this one.
People get distracted by talk of global microchips while ignoring global tax evasion. They fear you'll own nothing, while missing the fact that housing markets are being devoured by corporate investors.
Yep.
They worry about digital slavery while ignoring the slow erosion of privacy by governments and tech companies, a process that doesn't require Davos at all. They rail against the idea of a world government that doesn't exist, while multinational corporations, which do exist, quietly write the rules. The conspiracy lens zooms in on the wrong villains. It chases shadows instead of systems, and that's where the tragedy lies. The real critique of Davos, the one that actually matters, gets buried under layers of hyperbole. And that critique still exists, and it deserves to be heard, not as myth, not as paranoia, but as an honest examination of how power works in the 21st century. And that is going to be what our final part of this story is about.
What? A 3-parter?
No, we're not going to do another part. We're going to have a long episode. I want to finish it today. So if you strip away the conspiracies, the microchips, the secret plans, the new world order fantasies, what you're left with is something far more grounded and in some ways even more unsettling. Davos isn't dangerous because it's a secret government. It's dangerous because it isn't a government at all. Governments have obligations. They answer to voters, constitutions, courts, and laws. They can be criticised, challenged, and voted out. Davos is different. Davos is a network. It's a club of powerful individuals and institutions whose influence comes not from official authority, but from access, wealth, and connections. It's a gathering where the people who have the most power meet the people who want the most power, and together they imagine the world the rest of us will have to live in. And let's be honest, this kind of influence doesn't need to be hidden to be concerning. It doesn't need to be evil or malevolent or manipulative. It just needs to be unaccountable. The World Economic Forum doesn't force anything on any nation, but it shapes global agendas, it sets narratives, it influences priorities, and it creates consensus among elites. And consensus among elites has a way of becoming policy, even if nobody voted for it. So here's the real critique. Davos is where the winners of the global economic system gather to discuss how to fix the problems that system created without ever questioning whether the system itself should have to change. It's like asking arsonists for fire safety advice, or asking billionaires how to solve inequality, or even asking tech CEOs how to regulate technology. You can guess the answers you'll get. Davos loves win-win situations and solutions, but the world doesn't run on win-win solutions. Real change often requires winners to lose something, profit, influence, or control. And that's not a conversation that you're ever going to hear over champagne in the Swiss Alps. Davos is also a place where criticism is politely absorbed but never acted on. Speeches about sustainability coexist with private jets. Panels about inequality take place in lounges where tickets cost $60,000. Discussions about democracy occur in a setting designed to exclude 99.9% of humanity. And the point isn't that the people at Davos are villains. Many are thoughtful, smart, and even well-intentioned. The point is that they're insulated. They see the world from a height so elevated that the details blur, the suffering softens, and the systems, the ones that benefit them, begin to look inevitable. And that's the real danger of Davos. Not a conspiracy, but a bubble. Not secret control, but selective blindness. And not malevolence, but hubris. Because when you live at the top of the world, literally and metaphorically, it's easy to forget what life feels like at the bottom. And when you forget that, the solutions you propose, even the well-meaning ones, can feel like impositions to everybody else. And this is why the WEF's language sounds so paternalistic, so condescending, and so out of touch. It's not because they're plotting to dominate the world, it's because they genuinely believe that they know what is best. It's technocratic idealism wrapped in corporate branding, not a grand scheme, but a grand assumption. And that assumption fuels resentment more effectively than any conspiracy theory ever could. So if the real problem is structural, abstract, and slow-moving, why do so many people prefer conspiracies? Why imagine a secret cabal instead of confronting a flawed system? And why choose the dramatic story over the accurate one? Because the drama is easier. It's emotionally cleaner. It gives shape to chaos and intent to misfortune. It provides heroes and villains, beginnings and endings, good and evil. Systematic explanations, by contrast, are messy and unsatisfying. They offer no closure, no simple root cause, and no single enemy to defeat. They reveal a world shaped not by masterminds, but by incentives, institutions, historical accidents, and human frailty. And that's harder to fight, harder to understand, and harder to believe in. We'd rather imagine that someone is in control, even a dangerous someone, than accept that nobody actually is.
Oh, well, what? There you go. You see, you are in agreement of me after all these years. You must have been listening to some of the things I was saying over these years, Andy. You've surmised it in very well. That the reason why conspiracy theories are so popular is because they're so easy to believe. You don't have to do any research. You don't have to uncover any truths. You just believe, like believing in God. You believe that they're true. Easy to identify as the explanation of why your situation is so poor. Not your personally, but one's situation is so poor. The difficult thing is actually putting the effort into understanding what's really going on.
Yes.
So yes, bloody hell, Andy, this is pretty. What the hell? It's like epiphany. You've had an epiphany.
At its core, the Davos conspiracy theory isn't about Klaus Schwab or the WEF. It's about something deeper. It's a craving for meaning in a world that feels increasingly meaningless. When technology outpaces comprehension, when politics is broken, when inequality accelerates, and when old certainties collapse, when life becomes dominated by forces that nobody seems able to stop, we reach for the stories that shrink the world back to a human scale. Stories where outcomes are planned, not random. Stories where someone is pulling the strings, because strings, at least, can be cut. Even an imagined tyrant is easier to confront than a system without a face. And here's the paradox. Conspiracy theories about Davos flourish not because Davos is powerful, but because ordinary people are powerless. The more disconnected people feel from the centres of decision-making, the more they project intention onto those centres. The more unequal society becomes, the more plausible it seems that elites must be engineering it. The more the future feels like something done to you instead of something done with you, the more you look for the architects behind it. Davos becomes the perfect screen, wide, white, and empty, onto which 1,000 fears can be projected. The institution becomes the symbol becomes the story, and the story becomes the myth. Not because it's true, but just because it fills an emotional vacuum. And this brings us to the heart of the matter, the place where all these threads converge: power, myth-making, fear, inequality, technocracy, and the stories that we tell ourselves to make sense of a world we can no longer influence. Look not at Davos or the conspiracy theorists or the critics, but at the broader human tendency to create meaning out of uncertainty and the consequences of building our worldview on either blind trust or blind suspicion. In the end, the story of Davos isn't really about Davos at all. It's a mirror, one tilted just slightly enough so that the reflection becomes distorted, revealing not just the world as it is, but the world as we fear it might be. And it's strange that a conference in a small Swiss town a few days each winter has grown into something so much larger than itself, a symbol of control, a target of rage, an emblem of an inequality, elitism, and unspoken agendas, but also a symbol of hope for some, a place where the powerful pretend for a brief moment that they are solving the world's problems instead of perpetuating them, a stage for idealists and technocrats, each convinced that a panel discussion can change the trajectory of the planet. And maybe this is the real story, not the conspiracy theories, not the press releases, or the glossy photos of CEOs smiling in the clean alpine air, but the tension, the unresolvable tension between power as it exists and power as we imagine it. Because at the heart of all this noise lies a simple truth. People are terrified of a world without control, and equally terrified of a world where control rests in the hands of others. And Davos sits precisely in that fault line. On one side, there are those who look at the WEF and see salvation, a global brain trust, humanity's best and brightest, working together to prevent catastrophe. And on the other side, there are those who see domination, a cabal of elites deciding the future in private, while everyone else lives with the consequences. And both sides, in their own way, are telling stories that try to soothe the same anxiety. They fear that the world is becoming too complex for any one person to comprehend. We live in a time when everything feels connected: economies, technology, politics, pandemics, yet no one seems to be in charge, not really. We see crises accelerating, institutions faltering, and a future barreling towards us faster than we can prepare for it. So we search for narratives, we reach for meaning, we reach for villains or heroes, whichever the moment requires. Conspiracies offer clarity, optimism offers comfort, cynicism offers distance, and Davos, unintentionally, offers all three depending on who's looking. But maybe the most uncomfortable truth, and the one that neither the WEF nor its loudest critics like to acknowledge, is that power today is both everywhere and nowhere. It's not a person, it's not a group, it's not a secret room full of world leaders quietly signing off on humanity's fate. Power looks more like a swarm, a self-organizing cloud of incentives and structures, corporations motivated by profit, governments motivated by re-election, platforms motivated by engagement, individuals motivated by fear, hope, anger, and ambition. Davos doesn't control that swarm, and neither do the conspiracy theorists who imagine it. The swarm controls itself through the sum of billions of decisions, some responsible, some reckless, some short-sighted, and some visionary. And this is what makes our era so disorienting. We know that the world is changing, and we know that someone is benefiting from that change, but we can't point to a single mastermind behind it. And so In the absence of a clear explanation, we invent one. We imagine a plan where there is only drift. We imagine intention where there is only momentum. And we imagine a conspiracy where there is only a system, a sprawling, impersonal, indifferent system. But that system doesn't gather once a year in Switzerland. It hums along in boardrooms, parliaments, lobbyist office, server farms, financial markets, and algorithmic loops. And it's not a secret. It's simply ignored because it's too big, too dull, too structural to fit in a compelling narrative. Conspiracies flourish precisely because systemic analysis does not. It's easier to picture Klaus Schwab pulling the strings than to picture something much stranger and much harder to fight, a world without a single steering wheel. And this is where the philosophical reflection becomes unavoidable. For centuries, humans have tried to understand the architecture of power. Kings, priests, emperors, parliaments, the names change, but the idea is constant. If you can locate power, you can challenge it. If you could name it, you could hold it accountable. But in the globalized, digitalized, deregulated world we now inhabit, power is diffused. It's no longer a throne or a crown. It's a network, a market, an algorithm, a supply chain. It's the invisible structure behind the visible chaos. And in that sense, Davos is not a conspiracy. It's a coping mechanism for the elites, not for the masses. For the elites, Davos is the illusion that the world is still manageable, that they can gather, converse, strategize, and exert influence in a world slipping from everyone's grasp. And it's their way of pretending that they still have control. For the masses, the Davos conspiracy is also a coping mechanism, a mirror image illusion that someone somewhere must be orchestrating this complexity intentionally. Both sides overestimate Davos in opposite directions. Both sides project onto it the power they either want to believe exists or are terrified that it does exist. And maybe that's the most revealing part of this whole story. Davos is powerful mainly because we need it to be powerful. Not because of what happens there, but because of what it represents. A focal point for our fears, our anger, our hopes, and our longing for simplicity. We create myths to understand the world. And when the world becomes too vast for myth to handle, we create a bigger myth. The Davos conspiracy is one of the biggest of our time, not because of its content, but because of its function. It allows us to blame, it allows us to focus, it allows us to imagine that the future is something someone planned and not something we stumbled into through a series of accidents, innovations, mistakes, and unintended consequences. But here is the quiet, unsettling truth. The world is not being run by a small group of geniuses or villains. It's being shaped by millions of incentives and billions of choices, many of which contradict each other. And that means the world is neither controlled nor uncontrollable, simply complex. So maybe the real work of our time is not to expose conspiracies or to defend institutions, but to learn how to live with that complexity, to acknowledge the limits of our understanding, to resist the seduction of simple stories, whether these stories come from the WEF or from its fiercest critics. To see power clearly without exaggerating it or minimizing it, and to recognize that our search for control is in itself a source of vulnerability. The WEF did not create that vulnerability, nor can it solve it. It is simply another character in humanity's long, unfinished story about authority, anxiety, and the meaning that we seek in a world that outruns our comprehension. And maybe the most honest conclusion is the simplest one. Davos is not the puppet master, it's the stage, and all of us, in one way or another, are part of the script. Because as long as we keep looking for someone to blame and someone to revere, someone to fear, someone to accuse of planning the unplanned, we remain characters in someone else's narrative and not the authors of our own. And perhaps the real reset we need is not economic or technological, but psychological. The ability to stand in uncertainty without surrendering to fantasy, and to confront power without imagining it as omnipotent. In that space, somewhere between naive trust and paranoid suspicion, there is room for something rare and deeply needed: clarity. Not the clarity offered by conspiracy, not the clarity offered by corporate optimism, but the clarity that comes from looking at the world without illusion and still choosing to engage with it. That, in the end, is the reflection Davos leaves us with. Power is real, influence is real, but so is myth, and so is projection, and so is our need to turn confusion into narrative and uncertainty into story. And if we want to navigate the world ahead, we must learn to tell better stories. Stories grounded not in fear or fantasy, but in the difficult, humbling, liberating truth that nobody is in control, which means we are all, in the smallest ways, all that matter.
Oh, Andy, almost bring a tear to my eye, for God's sake.
And that brings us to the end of the Davos and WEF conspiracies.
Well done.
Well, I hope you learned something.
Well, the thing is that it's incredibly in line or aligned with, what the position I hold in these things. But unfortunately, the issue of complexity is something that is very difficult to overcome. We do live in a very complex world, and to penetrate those complexities requires a degree of effort and a degree of intellect, and motivation to want to do it. So that is the obstacle that we all have to overcome. We have to be willing to set aside or go through the apathy and make an effort to really understand what is going on in the world. And unfortunately, a lot of people, the very people that would benefit from doing it, don't have the energy because they're too engrossed in trying to just put food on the table, quite literally in many cases. And when they do, they just want to, in a way, relax without having to expend energy on trying to understand what's going on. And that is the downside, because the complexity exists. We can't simplify the world we live in. We can't, unless we have, funnily enough, and now I'm going to sound a bit like you, we have some sort of revolution.
Yay.
But it wouldn't be a revolution in terms of cutting people's heads off. It would be it would be a revolution in terms of cutting out the technology that is driven by these algorithms and everything. And in fact, funnily enough, the kickback has started, and we talked about it however many weeks ago, that Australia, for instance, are banning social media access to under 16-year-olds. It's a relatively trivial start, but it could have an enormous impact if we're able to wean ourselves off social media.
But unfortunately, by telling the under 16s that they're not allowed to have social media in Australia, we'll just guarantee that 100% of under 16s will have social media.
Well, you might be right, but at least there is some recognition that we live in a world driven by algorithms and God knows what, and the only way to weaken that position is to stop providing the data. And the only way to stop providing the data to the algorithm is to stop accessing those media platforms. But yes, yeah, I mean, it's very interesting. It's quite early. It's 10:30 on a Monday morning to be talking about these issues, but certainly it is going to take some sort of revolution, unfortunately, just probably not the Marie Antoinette type of revolution.
Oh, I hope it is. But anyway, we better bring this to a close. We've been at it for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks for listening, everybody. I
Yeah.
hope you found this interesting and not too sort of boring. I am still very much a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah, in spite of everything you've said over the last 95 minutes.
And we'll be back next week with a ridiculously conspiratorial story, no doubt.
Oh, dear.
So in the meantime, have yourselves a strange week.
Yep.
Don't go to Davos. And if you do, don't pay $60,000 to sit in a room with Trump. Just follow what he says on Truth Social. It's the same shit.
Yeah.
So, bye for now.
Cheerio for now.